Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to our channel, Digital Future AI School. Before we jump in, kindly subscribe to our channel, like this explainer, and share it with your friends. So this is episode 22 of our deep dive into the book AI Agents Makers by Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir. Today we're getting into something really practical. This is for all of you out there who are the builders, the dreamers, the makers. We are going to be looking at the actual blueprint for creating an AI agent, and it comes straight from the book's appendix. Think of this as the ultimate toolkit for turning that brilliant idea you have into a real functional thing. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this toolkit step by step. First up, we'll lay down the foundation with the main blueprints. Then we'll get into the fun part, giving our AI its own unique DNA, and then mapping out how it actually works, its core mechanics. After that, and this is super important, we'll set up the guardrails to make sure it's safe and effective. And you know what? We'll wrap up by looking at a plan not for the AI, but for you, the architect, to keep you focused and productive. So let's dive in.
You know, every great creation, whether it's a massive skyscraper or a really sophisticated AI, it always starts with the exact same challenge. You've got this brilliant idea, this spark in your mind, right? But the road from that idea to a real working thing, well, it can feel super overwhelming, maybe even a little chaotic. And that gap, that space between your vision and the final execution, that's where so many incredible projects, unfortunately, just fade away.
So that leads us to the big question for any creator. How do you actually bridge that gap? How do you take a fantastic concept, maybe it's a legal research assistant or an AI-powered health coach or even a content creation engine, and turn it into a solid, concrete plan that you can actually build piece by piece without getting totally lost in the weeds along the way? Well, the answer this book gives us is all about structure. And this is the AI Agent Design Worksheet. Now, I want you to think of this as way more than just a checklist. It's really a structured way of thinking. It kind of forces you to make those tough, critical decisions right at the beginning so that every single part of your agent has a clear, defined purpose. And look, this isn't about limiting your creativity at all. It's actually about channeling it effectively so you can build with confidence and not waste weeks or even months building features that don't even serve the core mission. So where does a blueprint like this even begin? It starts right at the very core, with identity. I mean, before you write a single line of code, before you even think about the tech stack, you have to know what it is you're building. What's its purpose? What's its personality? This whole first section is all about defining the very DNA of your AI agent. Agent identity, it sounds a bit corporate, but it's not just a name tag. It is the foundation for absolutely everything that comes next. It really breaks down into 4 key things. The name, which gives it a personality, its primary role, which defines its specific job, its domain, which sets its area of expertise, and, just as importantly, its boundaries. And finally, its communication style, which dictates how it's going to talk to your users. Getting this right from the get-go is absolutely crucial because it sets the entire tone for the rest of the project. And what's so powerful about this is how these 4 simple boxes build on each other to create a whole identity. There's a bit of psychology here, really. Just giving your agent a name, let's say legal, makes it feel real all of a sudden. It immediately sets expectations. Then you define its role as a contract analysis assistant. Boom, now it has a clear job. You set the domain to law, and you've intelligently narrowed its focus, which helps prevent it from wandering into topics it knows nothing about. And finally, you pick a formal and precise style, and you've just defined its voice for its audience. Just like that, a clear, coherent personality begins to emerge from what was just an abstract idea. Okay, so once you know who your agent is, you have to define exactly why it exists. This is where the worksheet really pushes you from a vague idea to a very specific mission. A weak goal would be something like, it helps lawyers. That's not really measurable, it's not specific. But a strong goal? That's something like, it will reduce document review time by 50%, or it will identify critical contract clauses to mitigate litigation risk. See the difference? That specific, measurable objective becomes your engine, your North Star, that guides every single decision you make from here on out. When you have to choose between 2 features later on, you can just ask, which one gets us closer to our goal? It makes those hard decisions so much easier. All right, so with the identity and purpose locked in, we've basically defined the soul of our agent. Now it's time to build the body. This next part is all about the mechanics, the real nuts and bolts of how it operates. What kind of information does it take in? What does it create on the other side? And what special powers does it have to get the job done? First up, inputs. How does your agent actually perceive the world around it? This checklist basically defines its senses. A text-only agent, for example, is a linguistic specialist, and it's relatively straightforward to build. But an agent that can process images? Now it needs computer vision. An agent that understands audio? It needs speech-to-text capabilities. Your choice here is absolutely critical. It directly determines the complexity, the cost, and the entire technical architecture of your agent. You have to decide, are you building a writer that just works with words, or are you building a detective that needs to analyze photos, documents, and even recording? Next, let's talk about outputs. If inputs are the raw materials, outputs are the finished product. The format here is so important because it defines how the user is actually going to use what the agent creates. A quick, concise summary is perfect for a busy executive checking their phone. But that same summary is totally useless for another software system that needs structured JSON data to kick off a process. A fully drafted document requires a much higher level of precision than a simple table of data. Defining the deliverable is just as important as defining the task itself, because it determines the entire user experience and where your agent fits into their daily workflow. And now we get to the superpowers, the tools. This is what really separates a simple chatbot from a true, powerful agent. Giving it web access lets it answer questions about current events or pull in live data. Giving it a Python interpreter isn't just for doing math. It means your agent could analyze a spreadsheet and generate a data visualization chart for you in real time. Image generation turns it from a tool into a creative partner. File search allows it to access a private, secure knowledge base. You see, each tool you check off here dramatically expands what your agent is capable of, turning it from a simple processor into a dynamic, powerful problem solver. A powerful agent, just like any powerful tool, requires very careful handling. Without clear rules, without boundaries, and without a defined process, even the most brilliant AI can be ineffective or, even worse, cause real problems. This section of the blueprint is all about building in those necessary guardrails to ensure it operates safely and effectively. Responsibility has to come first. Before you even start dreaming about all the amazing things your agent can do, this worksheet forces you to define what it should not do. This is not an afterthought. It's a critical part of the design process. Should it refuse to give financial or medical advice to avoid causing harm? Of course. Should it be barred from generating certain types of content? Absolutely. Explicitly defining these restrictions, especially in sensitive areas like law or medicine, is the cornerstone of building a trustworthy and responsible AI. You're literally building reliability and safety in from the ground up. This slide right here is where you map out the agent's internal thought process. A workflow isn't just a to-do list. It's the agent's entire decision-making journey. For example, imagine an agent that handles customer support emails. The trigger is a new email arriving. Step 2 is processing. It analyzes the email's text for keywords. Step 3 is the crucial decision point. Is this user angry, or are they just asking a simple question? Based on that, it takes a different path. Step 4 is creating the output, either drafting a reply or flagging it for a human. And Step 5, that human review, is the critical checkpoint. Mapping this journey out prevents chaos and ensures your agent is reliable, predictable, and effective. Okay, so far we've focused completely on the blueprint for the AI itself. But what about the blueprint for the person who's actually building it? A brilliant plan is pretty much useless if the architect is disorganized or constantly distracted. This final, and I think equally important part of the toolkit, pivots from the AI's plan to the creator's plan. And this slide makes a really critical distinction. The AI design worksheet is for the system. It manages the agent's goals and its internal processes. But the daily productivity planner, that's for you. It manages your daily focus and your priorities. One is for the machine's workflow, the other is for the humans. You know, great engineering has always required both, a solid plan for the product and a disciplined process for the people building it. They have to work in perfect harmony to turn a complex vision into reality. And you can see how this planner really fosters the discipline you need to build complex things. It's not just another to-do list. It forces you to identify your top 3 priorities for the day, so you're always working on what truly matters, always moving the needle forward. It pushes you to block out focused deep work sessions, because coding an agent or solving a complex logic problem is just impossible with constant interruptions. And it even carves out time for learning. Because let's be honest, in the world of AI, if you are not learning every single day, you are falling behind. It's a system for executing your vision. This quote really captures the entire essence of everything we've been talking about today. We all have ideas, but ideas on their own are fragile. It's the disciplined structure, the blueprint for the agent, and the daily plan for the creator that provides the scaffolding you need to build something real, something powerful, and something that lasts. Structure doesn't limit creativity, it enables it. So we'll end on this thought. Think about that AI project you've been dreaming of, the one that could solve a real-world problem. Right now, it might feel overwhelmingly complex, maybe even impossible. But what if you had the right blueprint? What masterpiece is just waiting inside of you, ready to be built, if you just give it the structure it needs to finally come?
When you're feeding it your own documents. It's a huge pain point, but the solution, as we're about to see, is all about moving from just guessing and prompting into a truly professional grade process.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You upload a detailed report, a complex legal document, or maybe your company's entire knowledge base. You ask what you think is a simple, straightforward question, and the answer you get back is, well, it's just wrong. Sometimes it's subtly off, which is almost worse, and other times it's a complete fabrication, what we call a hallucination. It's incredibly frustrating, right? And in a professional setting, it's not just frustrating, it's genuinely dangerous. So, what's going on here? How can an AI that can write a sonnet about the history of the universe get totally confused by your 20-page report?
So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down, step by step. First, we'll really define the problem, what we're calling AI's document dilemma. Then we'll introduce the solution, the professional's framework, which comes straight from Mr. Muir's book. We're going to spend most of our time on the two most important phases, preparing the knowledge and testing for trust. And then finally, we'll see how this whole system transforms your AI from a fun little toy into an incredibly powerful professional tool.
Okay, let's start with the problem itself. The simple act of just, dragging and dropping a PDF into a chat window and just hoping for the best, well, that's a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. Without a structured, repeatable process, you are relying entirely on luck. See, the AI doesn't automatically understand the context or the structure or which parts of your document are more important than others. For the AI, it's just a chaotic jumble of text. This chaos leads directly to unreliable, inconsistent answers that you just can't build a business on. The cost here isn't just one wrong answer. It's a total loss of trust, it's wasted time, and it could even lead to some really bad business decisions. So how do we fix this mess? How do we stop gambling and start engineering? The answer is to adopt a professional framework. It's about making a conscious shift from that unstructured, hope-based approach to a systematic, documented, and repeatable process. The key to this entire thing, as detailed in AI Agents Makers, is one powerful tool designed specifically for this job, the RAG Document Processing Worksheet. This is our blueprint for taming the AI. Let's be really clear about what this is. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It sounds fancy, but it's actually a pretty elegant idea. Think of it like a two-step dance. First, the AI retrieves the most relevant little snippets from your documents that it thinks will answer your question. Then, and only then, it uses only that retrieved information to generate a new, perfectly context-aware answer. So this worksheet, it's not just some form you fill out, it's a whole methodology. It forces you to be disciplined, to think through every single step, from how the document is broken down to how the final answers are tested. Its entire reason for being is to make absolutely sure the AI's output is directly and provably grounded in your source material. No more making things up. And who's this for? Is it just for, high-level programmers? Absolutely not. According to Appendix M of the book, the applications here are incredibly wide. Think about it. A law firm needs its case analysis to be based purely on evidence, no exceptions. A health center has to provide verifiable medical information. A startup that's building an AI product needs a rock-solid quality assurance process. Heck, even podcast creators analyzing transcripts need to know their summaries are accurate. This framework is for any professional in any field who needs results they can actually trust. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the practical, how-to part of the process. This is really where the magic happens. Preparing the knowledge, it's not just about uploading a file. It's about carefully, thoughtfully structuring your information so the AI can actually understand it properly. This entire section of the worksheet is about setting your project up for success right from the very beginning. This whole preparation process really stands on three fundamental pillars, and the worksheet guides you through every single one. First up is chunking. That's just a fancy word for how you break your document into smaller, digestible pieces. Second is embedding, which is the technical step of turning those text pieces into a numerical format the AI can actually work with. And third, and this one is so important, is tagging, where you add metadata to give the AI vital context. Let's dig into each of these. So the very first decision you have to make on the worksheet is your chunking strategy. And this is a strategic choice, not just a technical one. Imagine you're analyzing a financial report. If you ask a question like, what was the exact revenue in Q3 2023? You want the AI to find a very specific, small chunk of text that contains that single number. But if you ask, what was the overall market sentiment in the second half of the year? Well, for that, the AI needs a much larger chunk, right? Maybe a full paragraph or even two to understand the broader context.
The worksheet makes you document your choice of chunk size and overlap, which forces you to think ahead about the kinds of questions your users are going to ask. Next up is the embedding model. Now, don't let the jargon scare you. This is basically the engine that converts your text chunks into these numerical representations called vectors. The best way to think about it is like giving every single concept a unique coordinate on a giant map. Concepts that are similar, like king and queen, are placed really close together. Concepts that are different, like king and cabbage, are placed very far apart. Different models create different maps, and the worksheet makes you write down your choice. Why? Because this decision impacts your results, your costs, and even your privacy. If your AI ever gets lost, you'll know exactly which map it was using. Now we get to my favorite part, and honestly, what I think is the most underrated step in this whole process: metadata. This right here is your AI's superpower. Seriously, just feeding an AI raw text chunks is like giving someone a library full of books, but with all the covers and chapter titles ripped out. It's chaos. Metadata tags are the covers, the chapter titles, the author names. By adding simple tags like the document section, the author, or specific keywords, you give the AI these incredible filters. It can now search not just for text, but for text from the legal section written by Jane Doe about contract obligations. This improves your accuracy like you would not believe. Okay, so we've prepared our knowledge, we've chunked it, we've embedded it, and we've tagged it with awesome metadata. So we're done, right? Absolutely not. This is the point where amateurs stop, but professionals keep going. The next huge section of the worksheet is all about testing. You cannot just assume your preparation worked. You have to verify it with a rigorous, systematic process. This classic phrase just captures the exact mindset you need for professional AI work. You've set up your system with care, so you can trust that you've done good work, but you absolutely, positively must verify that it's performing the way you expect it to. The query testing and quality sections of the RAG worksheet are built for exactly this. This isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping. It's about collecting evidence. This is how you build real, unshakable confidence in your AI's output. And look at how this worksheet turns testing into a scientific process. You're not just asking random questions. You're creating a log. For every single query, like, what was the Q3 profit? You first check a simple box. Did the AI retrieve the relevant text? It's a simple yes or no. That notes column then becomes your diagnostic tool. Let's say you ask for a summary, and the note says context was incomplete. Boom, you know exactly what's wrong. Your chunking strategy might be off. This isn't about passing or failing. It's about diagnosing the problem, so you can go back and fix it. So after you've made sure the right information is being retrieved, you do the final quality check on the AI's actual generated answer. The worksheet gives you 3 simple categories: accurate, needs improvement, or the one we all fear, hallucination detected. This isn't just a one-time check. By logging this for a bunch of different questions, you start to build a real performance metric. You get a visual sense, like this donut chart, of how reliable your system is. If you're seeing a lot of needs improvement, or heaven forbid, even one hallucination, that's a massive red flag telling you to go back and tweak your preparation steps. So we've gone through the whole thing: identifying the problem, meticulously preparing the knowledge, and then rigorously testing for trust. Let's zoom out now and talk about why a seemingly simple worksheet is actually such a powerful, game-changing concept. This isn't just about getting slightly better answers. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with AI in a professional setting. So, what's the one thing you should take away from all of this? Here it is. The thing that separates a fun AI toy from a reliable professional tool is not the AI model itself, it's the process. Having one structured, repeatable, and documented process, like the one built into this worksheet, that is the entire difference. It's what brings discipline, rigor, and accountability into your AI workflow. And the real-world impact of this is just massive. For a law firm, it means they can produce an analysis that they can confidently stand behind in front of a judge. For a startup, it means they can finally ship a product to customers with real confidence, knowing there's a proper quality assurance process behind it. For a student, it means they can use AI as a research partner without worrying about it citing fake sources. And for any business, it means you can finally get consistent, dependable insights from your own mountain of data. And here's the best part. This isn't some abstract theoretical concept that's locked away in a book. These worksheets are designed to be immediately useful. They are ready-to-use templates. You can save them as PDFs for formal documentation, you can collaborate on them with your team in Google Docs, or you can import them directly into a project management tool like Notion. The whole goal is to make this professional process a completely seamless part of the workflow you already have. So we'll leave you with this final thought. We're moving past the initial hype and frustration with AI. We now have a clear, professional framework for making it reliable, for making it trustworthy when it's working with our own critical information. This process gives us control. It gives us confidence. So the question is no longer, I wonder if AI can do this. The question now is, now that you have the framework, what amazing things are you going to
Chaotic parts of your life. We're talking about a tool that can help you manage, well, pretty much everything.
So, here's the plan for our journey today. First, we're going to get to the heart of the matter. What are frameworks, and why on earth are they so powerful? Then, we'll bring it right down to earth and see how this applies to structuring your day. After that, we're going to ramp up the difficulty a bit. We'll look at how these same ideas can build a rock-solid legal argument and even help design a captivating story. And finally, we'll tie it all together into a kind of universal toolkit that you can start using right away.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The power of frameworks. Before we can talk about how to use them, we really need to understand the why. Why do our brains just freeze up when we're facing a massive, complicated task? And what's the simple secret to getting unstuck? That's what this first part is all about.
I mean, you know this feeling, right? We've all been there. It's that moment of paralysis when you're just staring at a mountain of work, a difficult decision, heck, even a messy room, and you literally have no clue where to even start. It's like a mental fog just rolls in. All the different pieces just swirl together into this one giant, intimidating blob of a problem. And honestly, the sheer size of it can make you want to just walk away before you've even begun.
Now, here's the fascinating part. Our first instinct is almost always to just push harder, right? To throw more willpower, more time, more brute force at the problem. But the source material makes it so clear. That's like trying to get out of that fog by just running faster in a random direction. The real solution isn't more effort. It's a map. It's better structure. Frameworks, they're like a scaffolding for your thoughts. They don't do the thinking for you, but they give you a solid, stable structure to build on, turning that chaotic mess into a clear, logical set of steps.
So how do we actually start building this skill? Well, we start small. We start at the most basic level there is, our own daily lives. Because this is where the habits of structured thinking are really forged. If you can master it here, believe me, you can apply it just about anywhere.
It's so easy to just dismiss daily routines as something trivial, but they are the perfect training ground for dealing with complexity. When you apply a structure to the small, repeated challenges of your everyday life, you're not just getting organized, you're actually building the mental muscle memory for structured thinking. You're teaching your brain to automatically search for patterns and systems, a skill that will pay off massively when the stakes get much, much higher.
Now, take a look at this. It seems almost too simple, doesn't it? Walk, exercise, stretch, hydrate. But the real genius here isn't how complicated it is. It's in what it gets rid of. Decision fatigue. See, every single day, we make literally thousands of tiny decisions, and each one takes a little chip out of our mental energy. A simple framework like this just removes the whole debate. You don't have to ask if or how you'll take care of yourself. It's just what you do. That mental energy you save, compounded day after day, can now be used to tackle much bigger, more important problems.
And this is just brilliant because it shows how a framework creates a powerful feedback loop for growth. This is way more than a to-do list. It's a learning system in 3 simple steps. First, what did I complete? That reinforces your progress. It builds momentum. Second, what requires improvement? This forces you to be honest with yourself, to find the weak spots. And third, the most important one, plan for tomorrow. This sets your future self up for success. You wake up with a clear plan, not confusion. This daily cycle is how tiny, consistent improvements turn into massive growth over time.
So here's the takeaway for this part. These little daily frameworks, they're like a giant flywheel. At first, each checkmark, each daily review, it feels like a small push. It takes effort. But over time, all those small pushes build this incredible, self-sustaining momentum. They create this deep psychological foundation of control and clarity that makes you more resilient and way more prepared for the bigger challenges that are definitely coming your way.
Okay, so we've built our foundation with daily habits. Now, let's take this whole principle of structured thinking and really put it to the test. We're about to scale up big time. We're moving from our personal lives into the high-stakes world of professional logic.
Just imagine for a second you're a lawyer. You're trying to juggle hundreds of facts, dozens of laws, and a whole history of past court cases. It's an absolute tidal wave of information. A framework like this legal argument builder isn't just a nice-to-have, it's an absolute necessity.
It is the only way to make sure that in the middle of all that noise and complexity, not a single critical detail gets lost or misunderstood.
And just look at these components. Each one is like a dedicated bucket for a specific kind of information. Without this, a lawyer's brain is just swimming in a messy soup of case details. But with the framework, it forces a very deliberate process. First, you just isolate the raw facts. Then, you clearly define the legal issues. Only after that do you connect them to the specific laws. That separation is what transforms a mountain of data into an organized, logical structure you can actually work with.
Okay, now this slide is really interesting because it shows how you turn simple research into a real strategy. I mean, a long list of past court cases, that's just data. But a structured table like this forces a much deeper level of thinking. That relevance column, that is everything. It makes you answer the question, okay, so why does this specific case matter to my argument? It turns a passive list of facts into an active arsenal of evidence, all ready to be used strategically.
And this right here, this shows the strategic genius of a good framework. It's like a chessboard. It forces you to not only plan your own moves, but to think about your opponent's moves too. By systematically mapping out all the arguments for the other side, you can find the weaknesses in your own case before anyone else does. You're basically red teaming your own work, finding the flaws so you can fix them long before you ever step into the court.
All right, so we've seen frameworks bring order to our daily lives and to intense logical arguments. But what about creativity? I mean, isn't structure the enemy of art? Isn't inspiration supposed to be this messy, chaotic, free-flowing thing? Well, let's challenge that idea head-on.
This is such a critical shift in how we think about this. We often imagine structure as this cage that just traps creativity. But you know what? The greatest artists know it's not a cage, it's more like a trellis that a vine grows on. I mean, think about the strict structure of a sonnet or the classic 3-act structure that you see in all our favorite movies. The framework doesn't limit creativity. It gives it shape, it gives it focus, it gives it power. It makes sure it grows in the right direction to have the biggest possible impact.
And here is a perfect practical example from the source material, a design worksheet for a podcast or an audio story. Now, this isn't about writing some rigid word-for-word script that sounds robotic. No, this is about being an architect, designing a journey for the listener. It's a tool to intentionally plan the emotional highs and lows, the moments of tension and release, just to make sure your creative ideas are delivered with the most power and engagement you can get.
And this framework uses that timeless story arc. First, the opening hook. That's the compelling question or that shocking statement that just grabs your listener's attention and won't let go. Then, the conflict or twist. This is the central problem or the surprising turn that raises the stakes and keeps them leaning in, wondering what's next. And finally, the resolution. That satisfying conclusion that brings it all home and makes the whole journey worthwhile. It's a simple structure, but it is the engine behind literally thousands of years of powerful stories.
Oh, I love this quote because it just nails it. A list of things that happened, this happened, and this happened, and this other thing happened. That's a chronicle. That's not a story. It's the framework, the deliberate shaping of those events into a structure with rising tension and a meaningful ending that turns raw information into an emotional experience. It turns a collection of boring events into a journey.
So, we have visited 3 very different worlds, haven't we? The personal discipline of our daily lives, the rigorous logic of the legal world, and the free-flowing creativity of storytelling. Now, let's zoom out. Let's find that one golden thread, that one powerful idea that connects every single one of them.
And as you can see right here, the principle is completely universal. It doesn't matter if you're talking about your personal life, your professional work, or your creative projects. Why? Because our brains are hardwired to look for patterns. When we're faced with chaos, our natural instinct is to try and create order. Frameworks are just a conscious, deliberate tool to do that more effectively. The specific worksheet might change, but the fundamental goal is always the same. Break down chaos into manageable, understandable pieces.
So this is really what it all boils down to. This is the big takeaway. Frameworks help you break down complexity. We saw that with the legal worksheet. They ensure key steps aren't missed, like our simple little health checklist. They focus your thinking, guiding you on exactly what to do next, and they channel your creativity effectively, turning a trickle of ideas into a powerful river, just like that narrative arc.
And I really want to end on this point because it's so important. It is so easy to look at all of this and just see more paperwork, right? More forms to fill out. But that misses the entire point. A good framework isn't a form to be filled out. It is a guide for your mind. Filling out a form is a chore, but achieving clarity, well, that is an act of empowerment. These are simply structured ways for you to analyze, to create, and to reflect.
They are tools for thinking better.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Take a look at your own life, your work, your personal projects, your goals. Where is that one spot of chaos or overwhelm? What's that big, messy problem that's been sitting in the back of your mind that you could finally get a handle on? Not with more effort, not with longer hours, but with the simple, elegant power of the right